name's Michael, and you probably know me from my YouTube channel, Laser Engraving 911. But what you might not know is for the past decade, I've run my own full-service laser engraving shop called Sonoma Laser Engraving. At Sonoma Laser Engraving, my business is exclusively dedicated to offering my specific laser engraving skill set to customers who need their items engraved. And that's what we would call a customer-centric based laser engraving business. And that's what we're going to talk about in my little talk today. And what I don't do much of until recently is buy a bunch of inventory of blank items that can be personalized with my laser engraving equipment, or buy raw material to laser cut and turn into crafts that I sell online. That would be called a product-centric based laser engraving business. And those are the two types of business models that I want to have a talk with you about today. And it's my hope that I can show you that adding both styles of business models can increase your profit in Q4. So if that sounds like something you want to get into, then buckle up, get your pen and paper out, because we're about to get into it on Laser MakerCon 2024. All right, so I thought we'd start with a bunch of fun facts about the laser engraving industry. Did you know that over the next 5 years, the laser engraving industry or personalization industry is expected to grow 7 to 10%? That would put it in 2029 at about a $3.5 billion market. Pretty snazzy, huh? As you may or may not know, laser engraving is used in a wide variety of applications, anywhere from personalized gifts, industrial marking medical devices, laser cutting, jewelry, electronics, corporate gifts. The list just goes on, and I'm constantly seeing new uses for these lasers almost every month. And this versatility of laser engraving machines and laser engraving technology is adding to its ever-expanding reach. And let's not forget how affordable a lot of these laser engraving machines are becoming today. The barrier to entry has been dropped way down. Those two facts alone should get anyone looking to get into this business very, very excited. Let's start with the product-centric approach. So if you're a product-centric based laser engraving business, what you're doing is basically you're buying blank items from wholesalers like JDS or Johnson Plastic Plus or one of your favorite wholesaling supplies. And those could be tumblers or cutting boards or keychains or whatever it is that's blank that you are going to now customize per your customer's requests. Another type of product-centric laser engraving business is where you buy raw materials like acrylic or wood or leather, and you're laser cutting and engraving those materials and then putting a project together and building something and then selling that final item. So it could be an ornament that you're designing, a gift box, bookmarks, or things of that nature. So if you're doing either one of those things, then you are most likely a product-centric based laser engraving business. Now, let's get into customer-centric based laser engraving business.
Hey there. Sorry to interrupt the video, but did you know that I offer one-on-one laser engraving business consulting? If you've been asking yourself questions like, which laser machine do I buy? How do I promote my brand new laser engraving business? Or how do I utilize the laser engraving machine that I already have? Then booking a private session with me is what you've been looking for. Cut to the front of the line using my 10 years plus experience in the laser engraving industry and get the answers you need right now. I've listed a link in the description below so you can book your one-on-one session with me today. All right, I'm done. I'll let you get back to watching me. See ya.
If you're this kind of business, which is what I do full-time, then you aren't buying a bunch of blank items. You're not buying raw material. You're primarily focused on engraving the objects or things that people bring to your shop per their request. You're basically like a job shop whether you're working with B2B clients, whether you're working with individuals, whether you're making a little plaque here and there for someone, you're basically selling your skill set and your service and your ability to use your laser engraving machines to do whatever it is that they want to have engraved on their item. All right, so next we're going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of both business models, starting with the product-centric based business approach. So here's some of the advantages of having that kind of business model. So one of the main advantages is that you always know what you're going to be engraving. You're very familiar with the material or the object, you know how it engraves, you know how to set it up, and there's never any surprises. It's always the same thing, which makes working and engraving on these products very, very easy. Also, another benefit is economies of scale. You can leverage your purchasing power by buying in bulk for a lot of these items, getting some very nice discounts, which overall in the end increases your profit. All right, and another benefit of the product-centric based model is fixed pricing. You know exactly what you need to get profit-wise on each product because you have intimate knowledge of how much it costs and how long it takes to engrave those specific items. All right, now let's talk about the disadvantages of a product-centric based model. The first thing that comes up for me is managing inventory and being reliant on said inventory. Also, forecasting demand or undercasting demand can also be a disadvantage if you don't get your inventory forecasting right. And of course, if that happens, you could either be stuck with tons of inventory that isn't selling and is never going to sell, and you could potentially leave a lot of customers very unhappy if you didn't order enough. Next, we can talk about the operational costs are much higher than a customer-centric based laser engraving business. You've got a lot of other things to think about. Typically, you need a larger warehouse space. You have more website costs for maintaining an online website store. If you're a mobile type product-centric based business, you then will have a trailer and everything you need to work mobily at craft fairs. You've most likely got a way bigger marketing and advertising budget than a customer-centric based business does. And you most likely have more labor than that other model does as well. And the last disadvantage for a product-centric based business that we'll talk about is having to deal with fierce competition online. It's no secret that everyone and their mother is trying to also sell a laser engraved cutting board, laser engraved tumblers, laser engraved journals, whatever it is, you now have to compete with all those different stores selling very similar products to you. And that's not to say that your products aren't unique, but it is something to think about when you get into a product-centric based business model. All right, moving on to customer-centric based models. Let's talk about the advantages. So one of the main advantages of having a customer-centric based model is that you have basically zero inventory to manage. You don't have to worry about forecasting your orders, about running out of inventory or buying too much inventory because you are just using your machines to engrave other people's items. Another advantage of having a customer-centric based model is that you have flexible pricing. You are not having to battle the sea of people on Etsy trying to undercut each other for the same product because you can command your own price. Because remember, you're just selling your skills and service as an engraver rather than trying to sell a product on top of it. You and your skills are the product. Having this kind of model also allows you to cater to much more clientele, whether it's B2B, machine shops, manufacturing shops that have parts that need to have laser engraving on them. You have a much larger variety of clientele than you would with a product-centric based model. And the last advantage that we're going to talk about here today for customer-centric based models is that you definitely are going to have lower overhead. The only real overhead that you're going to have is the cost of your equipment, the space where you're working. Obviously you're going to want to have a website to showcase your service, but your marketing, your advertising, and things of that nature. And the size that you can operate in is going to be much lower than if you were a product-centric based laser engraving business. All right, so next we're going to talk about some of the disadvantages of having a customer-centric based model. The first one that comes to mind is that you have a varied and unpredictable workload. You really don't know what's going to come through your door from week to week. And that means that you have to have a much higher and intimate knowledge of your laser engraving equipment and how so many more different materials are going to react with your laser. And speaking of that, there is definitely a higher risk involved in a customer-centric based model. Often you will have items that are one-offs or maybe can't be replaced. And you'll have to decide in the end, if you start adding this type of business model to your existing business, if the risk outweighs the reward. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. And the last disadvantage that I'd like to bring up for the customer-centric based model is that you will be required to have more face-to-face time with your customers. So with this type of model, there is a lot more back and forth, a lot more emailing, a lot more talking face-to-face about the different various projects that you'll be doing for your customers, unlike the product-centric based model where everything's kind of set in place online. All the information that they need to know is right there on the listing. They place the order, you fulfill the order, you ship the order, you're good to go. With the customer-centric based model, you're definitely going to have to be interacting with the customer a lot more. And if that's not something you're comfortable with, then you might want to figure out how to get comfortable with it or decide that maybe that business model isn't just for you. All right, so now that we've broken down the two types of business models and we've talked about the advantages and disadvantages, I want to start talking about how we, and I say we because for the first time ever, I am actually starting to add some product-centric based items to my website to be able to sell. So I'm kind of diving into what is new territory for me, as well as you might be thinking about diving into what is new territory for you doing customer-centric based laser engraving. So what I thought we would do is I will share some tips with you on how you can get a game plan together to be able to offer both in your laser engraving business. So let's get into it. All right, let's talk about strategy for adding customer-centric based laser engraving full-time to your business. First tip I have, laser engrave as many items as you can. Go to Goodwill, pick up the most weirdest shaped, oddest shaped, various material, baseball bats, gloves, metal spoons, little boxes made out of plastic, wood. Basically, you just want to go in and fill up a shopping cart with everything that makes you uncomfortable on how to laser engrave, because that is how you're going to learn how to deal with this unpredictable workload that we talked about. The only way that you're going to get comfortable working in a customer-centric based laser engraving environment is if you're already familiar with laser engraving and jigging up and fixturing up all the various items that could potentially walk through your door. Once you have more experience in laser engraving these items, it won't seem so daunting when you start opening up for that kind of service at your business. I'm telling you, it's how I started off, and it's built me a wealth of knowledge over the years to be able to engrave all the different things that come through my door. Tip number 2. Make sure that you have all the different types of lasers that you need to run a customer-centric based business. I recommend that you have at the very minimum a 50-watt CO2 laser and a fiber laser. Yes, if you haven't gotten a fiber laser yet, now is the time. You want to be able to engrave all the different items that may come through your door, and a CO2 laser alone is not going to cut it, and a little diode laser is not going to cut it. If you want to have success, you're going to want to have both CO2 and a fiber laser in your shop. Tip number 3, build a general pricing structure for laser engraving services on various items. You're going to want to start to build a tier-based pricing structure if people bring you quantity, and you're also going to want to have your kind of general one-off prices. I've mentioned this in some of my other videos before. I like to have a house minimum fee for any job that comes my way. All right, and tip number 4 for a customer-centric based laser engraving business is don't take on any jobs that you're not comfortable with. I would hate for you to get yourself into a situation where you didn't practice enough, didn't hone your skills enough, and then found yourself in a situation where you ruined someone's precious object because you jumped the gun. So make sure that you got your skills in place before you jump into this business model. Now we're going to move on to some strategies for a product-centric based business. Now, if you are an existing business like me, where I mostly engrave other people's items, then you're going to want to follow some of these tried and true tips for setting up your product-centric laser engraving business. And like I said before, I'm kind of new to this arena too, and I'm learning right along with you, but here are some ones that never go out of style. Starting with tip number 1, you need to get your e-commerce store established, whether that's Etsy, Shopify, WordPress, whatever platform you're going to build it on, you're definitely going to want to start building your online store. And that includes not only buying the website that you need, the name of your business, making product listings that are ready to go, taking excellent product photos. There are some great tutorials on how to do that. But then also writing your listing, setting your prices, figuring out your shipping costs, and everything that goes along with setting up an e-commerce store. That is something that you absolutely are going to have to do if you want to start selling products online. All right, here's tip number 2 for a product-centric based laser engraving business getting ready to sell online. You want to research evergreen products. And what I mean by that is start looking at products that have been selling for years and years and years and that have not gone away. If you want a higher chance at getting sales right off the bat, you're going to be wanting to sell things like cutting boards, tumblers, coasters, leather goods, things in the wedding category, bridal and groomsmen. Just start researching various products that always sell when it comes to laser engraving. And after you've gotten some of those listings up on your site, then you can start to branch out to other niche categories and find your place in the laser engraving market. All right, and tip number 3 for your product-centric laser engraving business is get a game plan together for your marketing and advertising strategy. So unlike a customer-centric based laser engraving business, you're definitely going to be doing some form of advertising and marketing to drive traffic to your online store. Whether that's Etsy, your Shopify store that you just built, there's lots of different ways that you can advertise. One of the more creative ways is like a class that Sumita at Homebound Decor teaches about using influencers on Instagram to market your products for you in exchange for free products. So there are some ways like that. And then of course there's Google Ads, there's Pinterest, there's Facebook groups, but start researching how you're going to drive traffic to your website. That is definitely something you're going to need to learn how to do, and I'm sure that with all the resources out there today, especially on YouTube and Facebook groups, you should be able to come up with some amazing marketing strategies. All right, so I want to thank you for joining me for our little talk here today on product-centric laser engraving versus customer-centric laser engraving. Boy, that's a mouthful. And it's been my pleasure to share with you a little bit of insight on the type of business model that I run here at Sonoma Laser Engraving. And I hope that with everything we've gone over, I've illustrated that it is absolutely possible to do both models to increase your revenue in Q4. If you'd like to download some additional resources on our little talk today, I've listed a link below. In there, you'll find some pricing guides, some other insider information on running a customer-centric based business, and some of my best equipment recommendations and other pro tips from me to you. And with that, I'd like to say it's an honor to have been a speaker here at Laser MakerCon 2024, and I hope to see you soon over at Laser Engraving 911. and I'm out.